Good day to you on this Tuesday, March 3rd in 2026. We're in an extraordinary sequence right now in geometry to get to the basis of geometry, which we have done. The basis of geometry is ultimately simple, but it must actually be probed down to its core in order to verify the sequence of proof of what we know of geometry. This led us to the beginning of geometry. The most difficult journey that's ever been taken in science is the journey back to the beginning. Why are we doing science? Nobody has ever even attempted to answer that question. It's a completely open question. Nobody has any idea why we're doing science. And who's we? We don't even know who we are. Who is we? Is it all of us? Well, obviously not. So who is referring to whom when we say we? You have to answer this question. It cannot be evaded. It's not a red herring. It's the central question. In order to get at the basis of a system, such as a system of thought, a system of approach to the universe, we're defining the aspects of science. The primary aspect of science, in one approach, in one framework, you have to be so specific, it becomes tedious to an ordinary listener. Because at first, when you're trying to get to the foundation of a subject, there is an infinite amount of work. So you can't begin. So you have to use an artifice. You have to cut off a whole section of knowledge or a whole section of logic in order to concentrate in one direction to the exclusion of all other directions. That leads to disaster instantly. You ruin your whole approach when you do that, but you have to do it. So it's really quite an amazing paradox that, of course, suggests all the other paradoxes of the same type. It immediately conjures in the mind. My mind is perfectly typical and normal, so I'm not projecting at all. I'm simply assimilating a common situation. When we go to approach geometry, nobody has ever defined what that is. And we use numbers, which only within my lifetime were finally defined in any coherent, complete fashion. We use numbers, we use geometry, we use thought, we use communication. Then for a whole huge section of science, we use raw materials. We get metals out of the earth. We use metals for the most obvious purpose, which is to murder each other. So we have a blatant contradiction of purpose in the human race. We have no idea what we are doing. Speaking for all of us, speaking for every single human being that's ever been born on this planet, nobody has ever, to the slightest degree, had a clue what is going on. There's obviously a lot to consider, but there are two main divisions in our arena of consideration, and one of them is the universe. We have come to use this word universe in an incredibly puerile manner, that word has virtually no meaning. And I prefer not to use it, but in common speech, you have to use common words. So in order to make these presentations, I am forced to concede that there is a situation that already exists, which leads to an interesting impasse, that we're not doing anything. And there is no such thing as science. There's no such thing even as humanity. We can't even define ourselves. We have no way to begin, no avenue of approach that's going to lead to anything new. All we do is rehash facts. What has that accomplished for us? Exactly and only one result. There is only one success in the whole history of mankind. There's only been one ongoing success, and it has a very specific name. It is not science. Science has no definition. What does have a definition is technology. Technology. Technology is the only tangible result of the existence of the human race, is technology. And technology has only been around for 200 years. There was no technology before 200 years ago. What is one to say about this myth that we practice rational logic, that we are somehow doing something good, that this does make sense? That is reality. Reality and consciousness do make sense if you begin with metal, metal, metals. The definition of a metal is somewhat divided into a couple of categories. And I wish to just give you a quiz question, which, let me remind you, a quiz question is a question that's asked in transit in order to prompt a mode of thought. It is not meant to stymie you or threaten your very existence. If you get the wrong answer, then you're fucked. That's called an exam. And those are inhumane. It's an anti-human practice to give children and young adults tests without any guarantee that they're going to succeed. That is cruel in the extreme degree, and it has ruined civilization everywhere. Every society, every culture, first of all, gets a government, and that's the end. Once you have a government, that's all you have. So we do have two phenomena that have occurred on the face of the earth. And let me just remind you, the only reality known to men is the face of the earth. Everything else is an absolute mystery and always will be. Men don't know anything about the universe. Nothing. What we do is basically what every child does. We look, and then we measure, and then we draw conclusions. But we're not changing anything. And we're certainly not changing anything in ourselves. With one huge exception: religion. Religion is anti-scientific to the most extreme degree. Religion will deny reality, will deny it in favor of something helpful. Men need help. Men want answers to questions that we cannot even ask. We don't know how to ask the right question. We have gotten no solutions. Because if we had, at any point in our 6,000-year history, if any conclusions of any kind had been reached by humanity in any arena, family, society, city, nation, tribe, group, anything, in any conglomerate of humans that is beyond the individual human, there have never been any answers that could be taught to the next generation. And there never has yet been an educational system on earth that trains children in what their ancestors know. It simply cannot be done because every generation starts over. And if there were such a thing as cumulative knowledge, it would be passed on because it's good. Well, there's nothing good to pass on. What does exist and what contradicts my whole line of pseudo reasoning, which I hope you recognize, I'm setting up a situation, a paradox. And I've only given you one side, and you might be chawing at the bit because you're argumentative, you're argumentative. Your whole purpose in listening to someone talking, such as myself, who's attempting to expound the truth, is to wait for an error and pounce, because you know that's going to be the result. No matter how incisive a man's insights are, he can be cornered, he can be led to a reductio ad absurdum in his own words, and he can be denied, defeated, defamed, and destroyed. That happens in every generation. Now, you may have a personal point of view that you don't like to share if you're normal, certainly in America. You may suspect that there are wise men, that there are men whose knowledge is valuable, but you've never met one. You've heard of them. Men like Buddha, men like Jesus, men like perhaps you've even heard of others, prophets, Muhammad, wise men, guides, special men who help humanity. What has it led to? Nothing. Nothing. Nobody has ever accomplished anything that can be proved. And so there's no knowledge. And so there's no science. Now, for the other side, where we find pseudoscience and pseudo-culture, pseudo-humanity, pseudo-wisdom, what we seek is a replacement for reality. We can't fathom reality. Reality is completely unreal, and that's a direct contradiction. Nobody can break out of that. Nobody ever has. No wise man has ever been able to conquer darkness. Men are born blind. Men are born retarded. Men are born evil. The first thing a human tries to do is lie. The next thing a human tries to do is deny everything, as if the little tyke were Satan himself. Just no to everything. Rebellion and lying. And then theft. Very quickly, a child learns how to steal, because then the child does not have to do things that the child doesn't want to do. Because what the child wants, somebody else has. And then the conclusion is as obvious as Darwin. It's as obvious as Einstein. It's as obvious as Euclid what to do. Because nobody is going to tell you not to, except by beating you half to death. And that has never deterred a single man from his prospect of getting through life on a skateboard. You simply learn to lie, cheat, kill, and steal. Okay, so that's our introductory material that took 15 fucking minutes to set up the stage for what I want to present to you that is helpful. But it's not going to be pleasant. There are two realities in the world for every human being, and only two realities. This is my hypothetical basis for approaching this topic, which is science. We want to know, why are we studying geometry? Why am I telling you about a new number system? What fucking possible good could that do for you or anybody? Why do this? That question is impossible to answer unless it's done Exactly right. It has to be done extremely meticulously and precisely. What is science? What is reality? What is consciousness? What is the goal? Is there a problem that needs to be solved? Because if there's not, you have no reason to do science or anything else. You're trying to solve a problem. What problem? Let's lay out the actual situation. You know what's going on in global politics, and I want you to pause right now. Halt and think deeply about your first reaction. When I say the term global politics, what image comes into your mind? Be honest. All right. That's not exactly what I want to say, but I'm setting up something. What is the other overriding aspect of the world from your point of view? You have global politics. Okay. That accounts for a lot of activity on Earth. It at least creates a framework for defining what is a government. But now you need to also define what is science. When you put it right alongside global politics, now you only have one definition of science that makes empirical sense. Science is technology. It's the excavation, smelting, forming, and engineering of metals. Metals. And metals are a kind of matter that occur naturally in the earth. Some of them are elements, which has a very specific definition. So I'm already using science to advantage, because now I can define for you in context what you already know is a metal. You have some idea of what is a metal. Metal, a very strange word, is metal. Well, the first metal that men ever became aware of, going back to the beginning of human recorded history and even before, the first metal that was ever discovered and used is called gold. G-O-L-D, gold. There is a finite amount of gold distributed in quite interesting geological locations around the geographical Earth. Gold is the first metal listed in the Bible. It's the first metal mentioned in every religion. It is so powerful of a symbol that it's used to express religious and supernatural and transcendent and in general abstract ideas that have very little to do with metal itself, except metaphorically. Gold was used in Daniel's prophecy of the giant. Daniel was repeating the prophecy of Enoch when he mentioned a giant, which he called a statue that was built by Nebuchadnezzar, one of the giants of the earth. A giant is a human being. According to Enoch, a giant is the result of having been fucked in the anima by an angel. And this would be a very specific kind of angel called an evil angel. In Islam, they're called evil angels. In the prophetic transmission that precedes Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, the original transmission of religious information which we essentially call the Bible today, and Enoch is a canonical book in the Bible because I say so, and my authority is final on this subject. So the Jewish Bible is missing the holiest book ever written. So you have to ask a question. Who the fuck are the Jews? Who are they? Well, today, they're a political entity. The Jews are. And by law, by force of law, you cannot say anything against the Jews as a race. If you do, you can be thrown in prison. So they're protected. Really, they're protected. Nobody else is. How did the Jews get this amazing immunity from critique when they're the ones who killed God's son? They're the ones who killed every wise man they could find. And when they found the book of Enoch, they suppressed it, they hunted it down, and they killed anybody who had any knowledge of that book. And that's who the Jews actually are. They're also a secret organization that overthrew the nation of Russia and took over half of Europe. So those are the Jews, and now they're a genocidal race. They're a political entity that's going to destroy innocent people. It's happening right now. It began a week ago. No, it didn't. It began 50 years ago. It began 75 years ago. It began 4,000 years ago. The Jews are the enemy of all mankind because they've been fucked in the anima. That's a Jungian term. The anima, defined by Carl Gustav Jung, one of my teachers, as the feminine.
The feminine
part of a male psyche. Every man has a woman inside of him. You may have heard rumors to that effect that people even get operations to complete the process because the man has decided that he's a woman. That has some substance to it. A man is a woman deep inside. A woman has an animus. These are psychic constructions. They're not physical. You're never going to change your physical constitution. And if you get an operation, you're just killing yourself, and that's your right, is to hurt yourself. If you think that hurting yourself is the right thing for you to do, you should be allowed to hurt yourself. And so you can change your sex. If you do, you can't go back. The same thing is true if you've been fucked in the brain by a fallen angel. And there have been such men documented to exist. Judas, who was a Jew, was the most notoriously, hideously evil man who ever lived. He murdered the king of the earth in cold blood with a kiss. I don't know how you can come up with a better children's bedtime story than the story of the betrayal and murder and cruel death of Jesus, God's Son, the King of the earth, the healer of all humanity, was murdered in cold blood by his own people. What force murdered Yeshua? An innocent, absolutely good man. Who would murder such a man? The Jews would. What made the Jews evil? If you can't answer that question, you're not thinking clearly. A fallen angel fucked certain key gentlemen in the Sanhedrin. Fucked them in their feminine privates. In some circumstances called rape. Can that happen? Can a man be forced down and fucked? Yes, it happens in prison all the time. What about when a fallen angel wants to fuck humanity? Well, you're going to have to select some fuckies If you're the fucker, well, we call that Satan. No, there are over 200 fallen angels that are living on earth right now. You'll never find them. So do they exist? Yes, they definitely are here. Can I prove that? I certainly can. But if you're looking for photographs, you're on a UFO hunt, darling. Are there aliens? There are myriad angels. There are myriad aliens. Are any of them here? Yes. A whole host of them are here. Can you see them? Can you prove they exist? Yes, you certainly can. They're all around you, but you can't see them with your eyes. And if you could, you would probably want to give that information to the United States government, your protector, your friend, Great Uncle Sam, your guide, the one who gives you life, who takes the place of God. That's your government that you've sworn allegiance to, and you will die for your nation gladly. Who led you to believe that? It doesn't really make any difference if you yourself don't subscribe to that insanity. The problem that we all face, whether we believe in that manifest destiny nonsense or not, is that everybody around you, statistically, does believe it and acts accordingly. Who taught men to think that way? You have an authority over you that is so much more important than you are, that your life does not matter by comparison, that you're an N-word, you're a slave, and you'd better be happy because your government wants you to be happy. And to make you happy, your government has set up a system of happiness, and that's your only choice. In former times, men in most societies and cultures had another avenue open to them other than military warfare, which is the normal destiny of every young man, is to die screaming or instantly on some battlefield. That is so normal, it has affected most men. That's your destiny, is to die for your fucking country. And whether you would choose to do that or not is meaningless. Your vote doesn't count there. You can't vote against that. That's the way it is. You're going to die. And to rub that in, you're going to die anyway. So there is no answer for that. That's the end. There is no point in my communicating with you any further. I will never change your mind to the degree that's implicit in science. That science doesn't work. It doesn't have any answers. It serves the government, doesn't it? That's technology. That's metallurgy. It's engineering of metals. Those F-fighters, well named, the modern editions of the original F-16, which is a monumental breakthrough in technology, a death instrument, an instrument of murder. That's the goal of science. Under the divine guidance of your government, which came into existence through the fornication of angels with evil men. The men were already evil. They're born that way. Men are born evil. You have to actually do something, though, to become evil. All children do. Children are cruel. They're ignorant. They're in the dark. They don't know where they are, what they are, who they are, what's going on. They don't know anything. But they're encouraged to start motion, action, life. You're in it. And pretty soon, your puppy dies, or one of your relatives dies, or you have your arm chopped off, or you look into a compound that's ringed with very high cyclone fence with concertina wire at the top, and inside are men with dreary, drab outfits, just moping around, perhaps smoking cigarettes, and you ask why are those men inside that strange asphalt compound? They're bad men, honey, and they need to be locked up. Now you have to assimilate that information. A hospital, a prison, an insane asylum, a police station, and then you see the banks. They're everywhere. Banks. Mommy, what is a bank? Why do you and Daddy worship and get so emotional when you go to that church? It's because there's money in there, honey. Money, honey. Money. Daddy and Mommy slave their motherfucking asses off every goddamned day to scratch together enough money, which is the life force of the universe that takes the place of the spirit. Money, not spirit, not kindness, not normal behavior. Money. Money, honey. Now run off to school and try not to get mugged on the way, and take this knife in case that gang of bullies tries to beat the shit out of you again when you're going to get milk at the milk machine. Stab that fat fucker, honey. Take $100 bill here to bribe your teacher so you get some protection from those fucking thugs. Now run off to your government-controlled programming station, where they will tell you that you're not from God because there is no God. Science has disproved God, and therefore that's why we don't go to church anymore, honey. It's because of science and the government. It's because of metals. Metals. And that's what runs the earth. It is an alien parasite called metal. But it's not metal by itself. Gold is actually kind of nice. I've seen it. It's shiny, it's ductile, it's useful for art, it's pretty. But it also has technological advantages such that gold is an excellent conductor, and therefore your government needs it. And that's why the Jews run your banks. We brought the Jews over from Europe, we did. The white race brought the white Jews with them. And very quickly, the Jews took over the money system. And that's why Israel and the United States are attacking Iran. Why specifically is the United States government, your God, your own personal God, is attacking Satan? Well, of course you're on the side of God, not Satan. Well, on the satanic side, you have Islam, religious human beings. That's Satan. That's what your government calls them. So they have to be murdered, honey, but it's not murder if your divinely appointed government, controlled by the Zionist Jews, says that it's time to invade Iran and kill them. Why? There has to be a reason. Yes, it's called black.
B-L-A-C-K, that's a color.
Or the absence of color if you're a stickler. It's a color. It's black gold. Black gold. The shiny golden metal is well under control by the Jews and the United States government. They have the gold. All they want and can ever need. They have it. What they don't have is their lifeblood, which is oil, which is in Iran. All the oil that's left is in Iran within a 200-kilometer radius of the Gulf of Oman. All the oil that's left on Earth is there that is capable of powering the European Confederacy and the United States and China and Japan for at least another decade. And that's when everything is going to happen. Who is going to get control of the world? There can only be one winner. Do you have any idea who or whom that is most likely to be? I think you know now. I've been telling you for years, the United States has already won. It's simply tightening the noose. And that's what's happening right now over the skies of Tehran. Okay? So that's what's actually happening. The war that is going on in Ukraine and in Gaza and in Syria and Lebanon and Iraq and Iran and now Yemen, and it's going to spread. It's going to become a global conflict because Russia, and there's also China, but it's really Russia that's stopping the United States from taking over the world. The United States will take over the world, but there is a surprise ending. And the surprise is everybody loses. And that's called the apocalypse. Before the apocalypse consummates, there will be a very special battle called Armaggedon. Armaggedon. And that's where you're going to see with your own eyes 666. That sacred number to Satan. No, it's not. That is a secret message that I decoded. I know what a giant is. I know what a beast is. I know what metals are for. I know the role of petroleum in the world economy. I know everything there is to know about the United States military. I was raised an army brat, and I served the CIA. So that's why I may show a little emotion as I divulge to you the truth of the world political situation, which defines what science is. It's satanic. It's Satan himself is the one who is practicing science. Satan is splicing genes and covering it up with natural selection. It is Satan that is searching for something on Mars and giving the niggers a little bit to think about. There was water on Mars, but only I know what that means. They will never tell you because they are your mortal enemy. They're angels. And what you see throughout history of the mayhem, the brutality, the injustice, the rape, all comes from angelic control. The angels are fighting, and humans are going to be obliterated in their war. They're fighting. The angels are fighting. And all the contestants on earth are satanic, except for those who are being attacked. So let me ask you your exam question. Who is being attacked by the Jews? Who is the Jews' enemy? Why are they attacking Iran? I gave you a clue. It's to steal their oil, just as the British tried. Now the British are completely communist. They can't function anymore. The great ship of the British Empire is a lifeless hulk at the bottom of the ocean. Great Britain is a dead island. Now it's America. And that is in prophecy. It's called the Beast. And the Beast is working for the whore. And Satan is in Jerusalem right now. That is your world report. And that's 45 minutes. Keep looking up. We'll be back with our continuation of the rational logical sequence establishing geometry as the solution mode for everything that I studiously avoided commenting on, which is the good side. That is not something for you. You need to know about the bad side. The good side will lead you straight to hell because you'll reject it. And I don't want you to reject the truth that saves you. You already have. I'm going to leave you that way. And you are going to die an eternal death. And that's my prediction for you. Prove me wrong, asshole. You're doomed. You have no hope because you don't want to know the truth. And that's your professor just laying it out on the line for you. You flunked. And I'm not going to help you any longer because I won't risk my life for you. You're a retard, and you want to be. You're sick, and you are dangerous, and I hate you. Now go home and kiss your puppy and play your shit music. Maybe get a video game and find your drugs and your sexual identity. And good luck to you as Satan fucks you in the ass. I am done helping an idiot. Leave some comments. This is Anagalactic, giving you the world report on the apocalypse. Have a nice day. Stay tuned.